The stars glittered silently in the vastness of space as the Galactic Council's broadcast began. The Council, a group of powerful alien leaders, had always been known for their cold and calculating decisions. Today, their transmission was even more chilling. On Earth, people were going about their daily lives. In bustling cities and quiet towns, humans were focused on their routines. But everything changed in an instant when the broadcast appeared on every screen. The news was grim. The Galactic Council announced, with cold indifference, that millions of children had been killed on a newly conquered planet. The words seemed to hang in the air, a heavy blanket of horror. In the heart of New York City, people stared at their screens in disbelief. The news anchors were silent, their faces pale. The broadcast showed images of devastated cities and mourning families. The footage was haunting. The children's faces were innocent, their eyes wide with fear. The scenes of destruction were overwhelming. The reaction was immediate. Shockwaves of anger and sorrow swept through every corner of the earth. In Washington, D.C., the president called for an emergency meeting with top officials and military leaders. The situation was critical. The council's actions were seen as a direct threat to humanity. The president's face was grim as she addressed her advisors, her voice steady but filled with determination. Millions of children. Killed, she said, shaking her head in disbelief. We cannot let this go unanswered. In the crowded meeting room, tension crackled in the air. The president's chief of staff, a stern man named General Harris, stood up. His eyes were hard, filled with a fiery resolve. We need to act. We can't just let this go. They have crossed a line that cannot be ignored. Admiral Lisa Reynolds, a seasoned leader with a sharp mind, nodded in agreement. We have the technology and the resources. We need to send a team to confront the Galactic Council. We must make them understand that their actions have consequences. The room buzzed with urgent discussions. The military strategists, diplomats, and scientists began to formulate a plan. The task was daunting, but the need for justice was overwhelming. The Council had shown their true colors, and humanity could not stand by. Meanwhile, in a secret military base far from the public eye, preparations began. The best and brightest were called upon. Among them was Commander Jake Matthews, a decorated war hero known for his tactical brilliance and unyielding bravery. Jake was a man of action, respected by his peers and feared by his enemies. When he received the call, he knew the mission would be dangerous, but he accepted without hesitation. In his office, Jake reviewed the data on his screen. The images of the devastated planet haunted him. He was determined to lead his team with strength and resolve. He knew that the mission would require more than just military might. It would require courage, strategy, and the unbreakable spirit of humanity. The news of the massacre spread across the globe, sparking rallies and protests. People were angry, their voices demanding justice. The world was united in its grief and anger. As the days passed, the resolve to confront the Galactic Council grew stronger. In the quiet of the night, as Jake prepared for the mission ahead, he took a moment to reflect. The weight of the responsibility was heavy on his shoulders, but he was ready. He knew that the fight ahead would be tough, but he was determined to see it through. The Galactic Council had committed an atrocity, and humanity would respond. As Jake gathered his team, the path forward was clear. They would confront the Galactic Council, seek justice for the lost children, and show the galaxy that humanity would not be intimidated. The mission was set, and the journey to face the Council began. The room was dimly lit, with only the soft glow of monitors illuminating the faces of those gathered. Commander Jake Matthews and his team had been working tirelessly for days. The mission to confront the Galactic Council was set, and every detail had to be perfect. The stakes were high, and there was no room for error. Jake stood at the head of the room, surrounded by his team, elite soldiers, skilled scientists, and experienced diplomats. They were the best of the best, each chosen for their unique skills. The atmosphere was tense but focused. Everyone knew the importance of their task. Admiral Lisa Reynolds, who was in charge of strategic planning, tapped on a holographic map of the galaxy. The map displayed the route they would take, highlighting the wormhole that would lead them to the Galactic Council's homeworld. "This is our route," Admiral Reynolds said, pointing to the glowing path on the map. "We'll use a newly discovered wormhole to reach the Council's capital. It's the quickest and most discreet way." The scientists, Dr. Emily Chang and Dr. Raj Patel, were busy finalizing the new technology that would aid them in their mission. They had developed a specialized cloaking device to hide their ship from the Council's sensors and a new form of energy weapon designed to breach their defenses. Dr. Chang looked up from her work, her expression serious. "The cloaking device is ready. It will make us invisible to their sensors, but we'll need to maintain strict control over our power usage." Dr. Patel added, "The energy weapons are also operational. They should be able to penetrate the Council's shields. But we need to be precise with our attacks to avoid collateral damage." Jake nodded, impressed by their progress. "Great work, both of you. This technology will be crucial for our success." The team spent the next few days preparing their gear and reviewing their strategy. They practiced their infiltration techniques, rehearsed their roles, and ensured that every member knew their tasks. The tension was palpable, but so was their determination. As the departure time approached, the team gathered in the briefing room. Jake gave a final pep talk, his voice steady and filled with resolve. "This mission is not just about revenge," Jake said, looking around at his team. "It's about justice. We are fighting for the millions of children who lost their lives. We owe it to them to see this through. We need to show the Galactic Council that their actions have consequences." The team members nodded, their faces showing a mix of seriousness and determination. They knew the mission would be dangerous, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The day of departure arrived. The team boarded their high-tech ship, a sleek vessel designed for speed and stealth. As the engines roared to life, the ship lifted off from the launch pad, leaving Earth behind. The team was silent, each person lost in their thoughts as they prepared for the journey ahead. Through the wormhole, the ship sped through the dark, swirling tunnel. The journey was swift but disorienting. The crew experienced brief moments of weightlessness and flashes of intense light. It felt like being inside a cosmic storm. After what seemed like an eternity, the ship emerged from the wormhole into the Galactic Council's home system. The sight before them was awe-inspiring, a sprawling capital city surrounded by glittering space stations and immense starships. Jake and his team were ready. The cloaking device engaged, making their ship invisible to the Council's sensors. They approached the capital cautiously, their hearts pounding with anticipation. As they neared their destination, Jake gathered his team for a final briefing. "We're about to enter the heart of enemy territory. Stick to the plan, stay alert, and remember why we're here. Let's make sure our mission is a success." The team members took their positions, their expressions resolute. With the ship cloaked and their plans in place, they were ready to face the Galactic Council and seek justice for the innocent lives lost. The mission had begun, and there was no turning back. The cloaked ship glided silently through the dark expanse of space, inching closer to the heart of the Galactic Council's capital. The massive, glowing city below was a maze of gleaming skyscrapers and sprawling complexes. For Commander Jake Matthews and his team, the mission was about to become a high-stakes game of cat and mouse. Inside the ship, the team was focused and silent. Jake reviewed their plan once more, his voice low and steady. "We're about to enter the Council's central hub. Remember, our priority is to gather evidence and find out how deep their atrocities run. We need to move quickly and stay out of sight." The team nodded in agreement, each member ready for the challenge. The ship descended and landed gently on a hidden platform on the outskirts of the city. The platform was well concealed, shielded by the cloaking device. With the ship secure, the team disembarked, dressed in stealth suits that blended seamlessly with the surroundings. They moved cautiously through the darkened streets. The city was eerily quiet, its usual hustle replaced by a heavy silence. The team followed Jake as they navigated through the narrow alleys and shadowy corners. Their objective was a high-security facility known to house the Council's secret operations. Admiral Lisa Reynolds led the way, using her knowledge of military tactics to guide them through the complex network of streets. The team used their advanced gadgets to avoid detection. Small drones controlled by Dr. Emily Chang hovered above, providing real-time surveillance of their surroundings. The facility loomed ahead, a towering structure of metal and glass, heavily guarded. Jake and his team approached cautiously, using the cloaking technology to remain invisible. They reached a service entrance, one of the few access points not heavily guarded. Dr. Patel worked quickly to hack the security system, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the facility was a maze of corridors and rooms, all filled with the hum of machinery and the occasional flicker of lights. The team moved with precision, avoiding patrols and surveillance cameras. They reached a central control room where they hoped to find crucial information. In the control room, the walls were lined with screens showing various parts of the facility. The screens displayed data on different projects and experiments. Jake and Lisa scanned the monitors, looking for anything that could shed light on the Council's operations. Dr. Chang focused on a terminal, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "I'm accessing the data now," she said, her voice tense but determined. "This will take a moment." The room was filled with the soft clacking of keys and the occasional beep from the computer. The team remained on high alert, listening for any sign of approaching guards. The tension was palpable. Suddenly, Dr. Chang's eyes widened. "I've found something. It's a file on the recent attacks. It looks like the Council has been conducting illegal experiments on captured planets." Jake leaned over her shoulder, reading the data. The file contained horrifying details about the experiments. The Council had used the conquered planets as test sites for devastating weapons and cruel technologies. The information was damning, confirming their worst fears. "This is it," Jake said quietly. "We've got the evidence we need. Let's get out of here." The team quickly gathered the data and prepared to leave. As they made their way back to the service entrance, they encountered a group of Council guards. The guards were not aware of their presence thanks to the cloaking device, but their patrols were getting closer. Admiral Reynolds signaled the team to move quickly. They retraced their steps, avoiding the guards and making their way back to the hidden platform. The team was tense, their movements swift and precise. Once they were back on the ship, the cloaking device engaged, and the ship ascended into the safety of space. The team exhaled, their faces showing a mix of relief and exhaustion. Jake looked at his team, pride evident in his eyes. "We did it. We've got the proof we need to expose the Council's crimes. Now it's time to take this evidence and show the galaxy what they've done." As the ship headed back toward Earth, the team knew their work was far from over. They had gathered crucial evidence, but the fight for justice was just beginning. Their mission had been a success, but the real challenge lay ahead, bringing the Galactic Council to account for their atrocities. The ship flew through space, streaking towards Earth with a determined speed. Inside, Commander Jake Matthews and his team were preparing for the next phase of their mission. They had the evidence of the Galactic Council's horrific experiments, and now it was time to strike back. Back on Earth, the news of the Council's atrocities had spread like wildfire. The galaxy was shocked, and many alien species that had previously supported the Council were now rethinking their alliances. The Council's grip on power was weakening, and the human-led coalition was ready to take advantage of this new opportunity. Jake and his team landed at a secret military base on Earth. The base was bustling with activity as troops and supplies were mobilized for the upcoming offensive. The base commander, Colonel Sarah Thompson, greeted Jake and his team with a firm handshake and a serious expression. "Commander Matthews," Colonel Thompson said, "we've been preparing for this. Our forces are ready, and we've gathered support from several alien factions who are eager to fight the Council." Jake nodded. "Excellent. We need to move quickly before the Council can regroup. We have to hit them hard and fast." The team met with military strategists to finalize their plans. They decided to target key Council installations, including their weapon factories and communication hubs. The goal was to cripple the Council's ability to fight back and to rally more support from alien groups opposed to the Council. Admiral Lisa Reynolds led the strategy session. "We'll coordinate a series of attacks on multiple fronts," she explained. "Each strike will be aimed at a different target to spread out their defenses. Our goal is to cause maximum disruption and weaken their hold on the galaxy." The plan was set. Troops, ships, and supplies were dispatched to various locations. The coalition forces included not only human soldiers, but also alien allies who had previously been under the Council's control. They were united by a common cause: justice for the millions of innocent lives lost. As the attacks began, the Council's capital was thrown into chaos. The sky was filled with the flashes of energy weapons and the roar of explosions. The Coalition's ships, equipped with advanced technology, engaged the Council's forces in fierce battles. Each strike was precise, aiming to destroy key infrastructure without causing unnecessary harm to civilian areas. Jake and his team led a daring assault on one of the Council's main weapon factories. They approached the factory under the cover of darkness, using stealth technology to avoid detection. The facility was heavily guarded, but Jake and his team moved with precision. They fought their way through the defenses, planting explosives at strategic points. Inside the factory, the air was filled with the sounds of alarms and gunfire. The team worked quickly, planting charges and securing the area. As they prepared to leave, Jake gave the signal. The explosives were detonated, sending a massive explosion through the factory. The blast was a powerful statement of the Coalition's resolve. The explosion was seen across the galaxy, a symbol of the Coalition's determination to fight back. News of the successful attack spread quickly, inspiring other alien groups to join the fight against the Council. In the Council's headquarters, panic and confusion reigned. The leaders, who had once seemed invincible, were now facing a united front of resistance. The Coalition's strikes had disrupted their operations and exposed their weaknesses. The once feared Galactic Council was on the defensive. As the battles continued, the Coalition forces made significant gains. They captured key territories and liberated planets that had been under the Council's oppressive rule. The tide of the war had turned, and the Council's power was crumbling. Jake and his team watched the progress from their command center. The fight was far from over, but the progress was encouraging. The mission to strike back had been successful, and the path to justice was becoming clearer. "Stay focused," Jake said to his team. "We've made great strides, but we still have work to do. The Council won't surrender easily. We need to keep up the pressure until they're defeated." With renewed determination, the Coalition forces pressed on. The fight against the Galactic Council was a struggle, but the prospect of justice for the millions of lost lives gave them strength. The final battle was approaching, and the Coalition was ready to see it through to the end. The Galactic Council's once imposing headquarters was now a smoldering ruin. The relentless attacks from the Coalition had shattered their defenses and forced them into a desperate retreat. The final battle had been fierce, but the tide of the war was shifting. The Coalition's victory was within reach. Commander Jake Matthews and his team stood in the command center, their faces marked by exhaustion but filled with hope. The screens around them displayed images of the Council's crumbling empire. The Coalition's forces had achieved significant victories, liberating planets and rallying support from across the galaxy. Colonel Sarah Thompson, who had been coordinating the Coalition's efforts, approached Jake with a determined look. "The Council is on the run. We've received reports that their leaders are attempting to flee. It's time to end this." Jake nodded. "We need to make sure they face justice for their crimes. We have to catch them and ensure they answer for the atrocities they've committed." The team quickly mobilized for a final assault on the Council's remaining strongholds. The goal was clear: capture the Council's leaders and bring them to justice. The Coalition's forces, united and determined, prepared for the decisive strike. As they approached the Council's last bastion, a heavily fortified space station, the atmosphere was tense but hopeful. The space station was surrounded by a fleet of Council ships, but the Coalition's forces were ready. The final battle was about to begin. Admiral Lisa Reynolds led the charge, her tactical brilliance guiding the Coalition's forces. The space station was heavily guarded, but the Coalition's ships, equipped with the latest technology, began their assault. Energy beams and explosions lit up the space around the station as the two sides clashed in a fierce battle. Inside the space station, Jake and his team made their way through the corridors, overcoming resistance from Council guards. Their objective was the central chamber where the Council's leaders were holed up. The team fought their way through the station, their resolve unshaken by the fierce opposition. The final confrontation took place in the central chamber. The Council's leaders, including the Council chairman, were surrounded by their guards. Jake and his team entered, weapons ready, their faces set with determination. "Your reign of terror ends here," Jake said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You will answer for the suffering you've caused." The Council leaders looked defiant, but their confidence was fading. The Coalition's forces had won the battle, and their defeat was inevitable. The Council chairman tried to negotiate, but Jake was resolute. "There will be no deals. It's time for justice." The Council leaders were taken into custody, their fate sealed. The news of their capture spread quickly, and the galaxy began to breathe a sigh of relief. The Coalition's victory was a turning point, bringing hope to those who had suffered under the Council's tyranny. With the Council's leadership captured and their power shattered, the galaxy began the process of rebuilding. Jake and his team returned to Earth as heroes, their mission accomplished. The evidence they had gathered exposed the Council's atrocities and united many alien species in the fight for justice. In the aftermath of the conflict, peace talks began. The Coalition, along with their new allies, worked to establish a fair and just order. The goal was to ensure that the mistakes of the past were not repeated and that the galaxy would be governed by principles of justice and respect for all. Jake stood on the balcony of the command center looking out at the stars. The galaxy was slowly healing, and there was a sense of hope for the future. The war had been long and hard, but the sacrifices made had brought about a new era of peace. The team gathered around Jake, their faces tired but satisfied. "We've done it," Lisa said, her voice filled with pride. "The Council's reign of terror is over. Now it's up to us to build a better future." Jake nodded, a sense of accomplishment in his heart. "Yes, it is, and we'll make sure that future is one where justice and peace prevail." As the coalition celebrated their victory, the galaxy began to look towards a brighter future. The fight for justice had been won, and the hope for a lasting peace was on the horizon. The sacrifices made had paved the way for a new beginning, one where the values of justice and respect would guide the galaxy towards a better tomorrow.